Hi there, this is Jordan Luker. Welcome to my presentation on responsible production and consumption in Sweden. So responsible production and consumption, that follows under UN SDG 12, and that is to ensure sustainable production and consumption patterns. That is from the United Nations, the official quote from UN SDG 12. So looking at it globally, we see that it varies widely how much actual consumption a country produces and how much waste and emissions a country produces from their consumption. As you see, the Western world tends to be a bit more than some lesser developed countries. And you see specifically in Sweden, it's much more purple than the rest of the nations surrounding it in Scandinavia. And so I looked at it. Sweden, on average per capita, material consumption is 27.12. What domestic material consumption is basically the amount of materials used in the national economy. It is the sum of materials extracted domestically and the amount of direct imports with the amount of exports subtracted. And so that domestic material consumption per person is actually higher than what it is in the United States, which I found really interesting, that the average person in Sweden is actually consuming more materials than the average person in the United States. So what is Sweden doing about it right now? Sweden has a lot of actually specifically hazardous waste material coming out of it. Sweden has a lot of trash coming out of it, and Sweden produces a lot of greenhouse gas emissions, especially in the winter due to heating. So this is Sweden's strategy for sustainable consumption, which a lot of nations have adopted themselves. It's usually a 10-year plan, and it involves increasing knowledge and deepening cooperation, encouraging sustainable ways of consuming, streamlining resource use, improving information on companies' sustainability efforts, phasing out harmful chemicals, which I just mentioned, and improving security for all consumers. Finally, focusing on food, transport, and housing. That's a big one, actually. Food waste in the Western world is much higher per person than what it is in the rest of the world, and a lot of that has to do with restaurants and the way we see food and consume food in the Western world, and specifically Sweden as well. And I mentioned those harmful chemicals. Sweden is one of the larger countries in terms of hazardous waste use than the rest of the world. And finally, looking at what we can do using the technology we've gone over in class to solve UN SDG 12, we have using AI to track consumption and production. This could be trash, food waste, production waste, hazardous waste. 5G technology, using 5G to better connect companies with sustainability initiatives. It also includes the use of IoT and big data when gathering this information, and it helps companies stay on top of sustainability initiatives. The use of drones to better streamline production as well could be possibly used in the future to oversee how consumption and production is being used without the use of workers. And it also gets in those, sometimes hard to get areas where it could be dangerous sometimes to even reach and see where the consumption is leading, like in landfills or out in the ocean, where it's hard to get to see our actual waste consumption. All right, thank you so much for listening.